Imagine it is September 2016, and you are sitting at Wisdom 2.0 for business. What does life look like for you? What have you created? What are you proud of? So I'm going to take a moment and be silent while you either write or think about that. Seriously, it's 2016. You've had a year. Something has happened in the wisdom space. You were so happy you came last year to this conference because it changed your life. What changed? I would encourage you throughout my talk to take notes, preferably pad to paper so you don't have a screen in between me and you, but whatever works for you. Come and have a seat, those who are coming in. My first question for those who are just coming in is, it's September 2016, and you've created a new life. What have you created? So I talked to Soren and Grania earlier this year, and I was on the phone with them, and we were talking about this conference, and I think I was really forceful, and I said something like, I don't want people to leave this conference and forget everything that happened on Monday morning. I want them to have an action plan. I want them to do something. And they both went, oh, that's a really good idea, Gina. Why don't you do that for them? And I was like, no, that's what I want. So I'm here really with a commitment that all of us, the speakers, all the attendees, the volunteers, leave here in action. We've heard many, many conversations for possibility yesterday and today. We've had some conversations for relationship. I'd like you to take on this conversation as a conversation for action. It can be mindful action, but action nonetheless. And for me, that means I have to start writing things down if I'm going to take action. For me, it also means that my calendar is somewhat nearby, because if I don't schedule things in my calendar, it's a fantasy that they're going to happen. So let's begin. I've attended as much of the conference as I could for the last 2 days, so I could really create this conversation with you anew. And all day yesterday and all day today, I kept thinking, this conference, things are sounding really familiar to me. What is it? What is it? What is it? And I realized is all of the values that I've been hearing from the stage are actually the values that we've created my company inside of. So I have a small company, it's called Seven Stones Leadership Group, co-founded by myself and Jennifer Cohen. Our offices are co-located in Massachusetts. And this is our 7th year in business together. And we are guided by a set of values and insights. And I thought I would use those values to be the reflection of what I heard for the conference over the last few days. So first and foremost, what I've heard is a sense and need and desire for community. What we say is a community is where we rest and our greatest resource. And so many people, particularly last night at dinner, I would say, why are you at Wisdom 2.0? I'm looking for a community of like-minded people. I'm looking for a community of like-minded people. I'd like a community of like-minded people. I heard that over and over and over again. So the good news is, hopefully you have found that community of like-minded people. And you don't have to wait till 2016 to come to New York and sit in this chair to meet with a community of like-minded people again. You can create it yourself. You can create it at home, at work, in your neighborhood. So for those of you who've heard people say, right, the guy said he was meditating in the closet, and then he came out of the closet. So for those of you who sit there and go, Gina, that's great, I'm still in the closet and I got to stay in the closet at work, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but then you can come out of the closet at home and in your neighborhood. A friend of mine, we sit meditation quite often. We were members of a Sangha. The Sangha really wasn't doing it for us. We said, we really just want to sit and have a deep meditation community. And so we said, okay, every Saturday morning we're going to sit. And if it's just the two of us, that's fine. We took Labor Day weekend off, but the week before that, 18 people came and sat with us. And we were kind of like, where did you people come from? So you can create your own community. You don't have to wait for Soren to do it for you. And come back and share how you did it next year. Second, what I heard is really the importance of purpose. And purpose is a very overused word in our society. What's your purpose? Work for purpose. I think I'm leading a course in the winter, create your purpose, you know. But we say it offers direction and our reason for being. And I think we heard that over and over again. Many of the speakers, many of the people I've met in the audience have a deep purpose. And maybe we just need permission to live from that purpose. So I'm just going to declare permission granted, right? Permission granted, okay? If you haven't heard that for the last 2 days, then you'll hear it from me, okay? So go out there. And the way you're going to get that purpose out into the world is from commitment. And we heard the commitment of Eileen Fisher. We heard the commitment of the CEO of Etsy. We say at Seven Stones, it focuses our purpose and passions. Right, so those CEOs do not need to make the commitments that they have made to their organizations and to our society. They could just focus on their life and their stock options and their private jets and blah, blah, blah. But they choose something larger than themselves. And the only difference between them and the other CEOs we read about in the paper is their commitment. And so I offer for you all is, what commitment are you willing to make this moment, today, to start you on your path to September 2016? So when you show up, you are living inside your purpose from a strong commitment. Our fourth, Seven Stones, we love the number 7, so there's 7 of these. So number 4 is truth. We say it takes courage, and actually the truth really, really does set you free. Now, how many of you are still a little perturbed by the thought of switching your job with some random person and you have no idea what that job was? Remember, I don't know if you guys are here, you saw William, he's like, okay, now you're gonna switch jobs with the person sitting next to you. I was like, oh my God. And the guy leaned over to me and he said, I'm a blah, 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 and I do this. And I was like, you know, it was so cute. We were both a little freaked out by it. But what if, because of this work, we could create a business world or society where we could sit next to a random person and maybe not take their job because they're a different skill set, but we'd be willing to go into their organization because we would know that we would be treated with dignity and respect, because all organizations offer that to folks, not just the special ones that we then bring to Wisdom 2.0. And there's no us and them anymore. Oh, these are the great organizations and the crappy organizations. So the 5th value I heard was wisdom. I think this is why I'm a fan of Wisdom 2.0. It's one of our values, 7 Stones. It's a deeper understanding that guides us. And so for those of you in the audience in particular who have really large companies, please do not make these wisdom practices a fad, right? The latest thing that you're doing for your performance review, for your stock price, for your revenue growth, for your client satisfaction surveys. That's not how wisdom practices work, and it will do us a great disservice if you're here for that reason. The 6th value I heard was joy. And many people stood up here and talked about their own personal practice And I'll say my practice is mostly meditation. I do journal, and I'm also a collage artist. But I do sit meditation, and I run a little sitting group, as I said. And for me, a lot of people said, oh, meditation makes you relaxed and less stressed, and maybe I've gotten that, but here's what I've gotten out of meditation. First of all, I'm an extrovert, and I'm the person that would drive Eileen Fisher crazy, because I blah, 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 blah talk. So what meditation actually did for me was got me to shut my mouth, truly, and listen deeply and let other people speak their wisdom. The second thing, really as a byproduct for me, is a cultivated joy. Joy that I hadn't even I didn't realize I had lost it, but quite frankly, in my sitting silent meditation retreats, I discovered this long-lost joy that was inside of me. So I actually wrote down quotes, or not quotes, but since I took all this time taking notes, I'm going to read them to you. Some of them are quotes, some of them are thoughts, just what I've gotten out of the last couple days. Here's the hints and tips part you can take with you. I already said, don't make the wisdom practices a fad. Choose depth over breadth. Okay? I always talk about, the 7-Eleven model has everything, but, they only have one kind of Band-Aid, right? I want you to what I heard is go deep, find what works for you and go deep. You don't need to, I'm a big person like, well, I have to do this kind of meditation, then I have to go to yoga, and then I want to do Reiki, and then I have to, go deep. Care about your company and their people. And quite frankly, if you don't care about your company and the people you work with or work for, I would highly suggest that you consider a new company. Which brings me to another realization I had last night. How many people I met who had quit their jobs? So I'm just curious, how many of you have quit your jobs and you really had no business quitting your job? I'd like you to raise your hand high and keep them up. Keep them up. So look around the room. Look around the room. For those of you who know that you are in the wrong place, you have allies. And reach out to these people before we walk out of here. Thank you. And congratulations. I'm one of those people too. That's a whole nother story. We heard be vulnerable. We just heard that in the last talk. We've heard that with different speakers. Being vulnerable allows you to be yourself. Being yourself allows you to be transparent, and in that transparency, authenticity arises, and then people really want to be with you. You know who those people are at work who are authentic. You actually like them. And even when work is really hard, you don't mind being with them. Take paternity leave. Okay? That's a must. Please take maternity leave. Yes, please take maternity leave too. Is that really yeah, I've heard actually some women, right? They have a baby and come back to work a week later, and it's like a badge of honor, just like Chad talked about. So yeah, take your leave, take your vacation. I say to all my coaching clients, I don't care what they're paying you at your organization. They are not paying you to leave vacation on the table. They do not pay you enough money to not take all of your vacation, so take it. Find allies, right? It could be the person sitting next to you. It could be the person in the cubicle. Hopefully you don't have to go to the Wisdom Conference to find your coworker at the conference, but find allies. They are there. I promise you they are there. And you find them by speaking your pearls of wisdom, not only about this conference, but about other things in your life. Be bold, speak out. Sow your own personal values into all of life. If it's your organization, your organization. If it's your team, it's your team. But don't leave your values at the door when you walk out of the house, because that, for me, doesn't feel like a joyful life. Oh, what I heard, I don't think Eileen said this, but what I heard her say is allow for creative conflict. Like this distinction of there's destructive conflict that's based in ego and pride, but what about creative conflict for innovation and moving us forward into the next steps, the next world? Go somewhere that makes you uncomfortable. I have a girlfriend who teaches diversity. She would say, have the experience of being other. Right? So go to Chinatown if you don't speak Chinese and sit in the Chinese restaurant by yourself. Go to the black barber shop. Go to the Jewish synagogue. Go to Harlem and meet the girls and boys who haven't eaten in 24 hours and this is the only meal they're going to get. And believe me, you can go to other countries to be uncomfortable, but you can also be uncomfortable right in your own backyard. So those were some of the things I took away from this conference. I'm just going to pause for a second to let you all write down some action steps you want to take. And maybe I'll actually open it up to you all. Do you have any questions for me? Because there is a seventh value I am going to talk about. But I want to give you all, in case you're like, Gina, I have a burning question. And I told the mic guy to let the people in the back ask questions. So if you're not raising your hand in the back because they haven't run up the stairs and you really have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Oh, look, there we go. See? All the way in the back. We're going to start with you.
Hi, my name's Maritza. I'm from New York.
Hi.
And I was just very curious if you could just tell us a little bit more about your journey and the type of work that you do.
Okay. Great. I'm willing to. Thank you. I'm going to tell the very short version. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. I spent most of my life in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I went to a university that actually, what's his name? Casey. Oh my God. I was like, can I go to that Harvard Business School? The Harvard Business School I went to was not that Harvard Business School. It's fascinating to see what has come out of there. Anyway, I'm going to talk about my mindfulness practice first. I was a meditator on and off. I was taught by my Unitarian minister, which is a very Cambridge thing to say. It really wasn't until I went to IMS in 2010 and sat silent meditation retreat and really meeting Sharon Salzberg, who's right here and is one of my teachers, where I sat a 7-day people of color retreat, did all of this mindfulness conversation makes sense to me and why I'd want to do it. And sitting with yourself in silence for 7 days, I highly recommend it. And if you say, I can't sit in silence for 7 days, if I can shut this mouth for 7 days, you can, trust me. So that's my kind of personal journey. But my company really started out of our commitment to creating a life of sustainable abundance for ourselves and our clients and other organizations. And what does that mean? We don't know. We're in an exploration. I've been in a decades-long exploration about what that means and how we really get caught in this accumulation and more is better lifestyle. Growth is good. How many times I walk into an organization? Our growth plan, we're going to grow X%. You even heard Eileen Fisher. What was the growth rate of that store to store, year to year, right? Growth, growth, growth. And I'm a capitalist like the rest of them, but I say if you take your mind off the growth and put your mind on the values and put your mind on the people, the growth will happen. I think we grew 40% last year, and it's not like Jen and I stood around and said, let's do a 40% growth rate. We focus on wisdom and purpose and commitment and community and dignity for all of our clients, and the growth happens. Does that answer your question? One more, go ahead.
I just had a quick question, and I don't know if this has been addressed somewhere else in the conference. There's so many people here that I didn't get to meet, and if there's any community place for online for us to connect, if we didn't already get to connect.
Okay.
Because there's so much I know I could learn from other people and collaborate,
Right.
and I just didn't get to meet as many people as I would have liked to.
Awesome. So the answer to that question will be answered by Soren in the next panel. This is why we switched, so then I could say that. But I hear, right, this community of like-minded people, we want it to persist. And how it's going to persist is a little bit on your own and with help from Soren. But I really want you to take away that you can create the community for yourself for the future. Even if Soren comes out and says, no, that's all I got, see you next year, I want you guys to make it happen, okay? So real quick, the practices I heard from the stage, in case you missed them, I just jotted them down. So here are what I call mindfulness practices I heard people talk about. One, we actually saw a body scan. Jacqueline did a body scan today. We've obviously have been discussing mindfulness and meditation. Sharon talked about loving kindness or metta meditation. We've seen deep listening, deep reflection, journaling. Jamie talked about the power of journaling. I'm a big journaler. I really highly recommend journaling. We've seen the power of music, movement, and that movement can be yoga, but that movement can also be Tai Chi or Aikido or a brisk walk at the park. We've heard I've said get out in nature, but touch nature. Be out in nature, and even if I don't live in New York City, but I'm going to say even if you live in New York City, you can touch a tree, hold a stone, put your hand in water, touch grass, a bush, a flower every day. And finally, we've had silence, quiet time, so we can feel and listen to our inner wisdom and our intuition. So that's a small list of what's available to you for practice when you leave here. And what I encourage you to do is pick one, at least one, that you're going to start tomorrow. Not on Monday, tomorrow. So finally, the seventh value I heard, particularly with the last conversation, so moving, I was standing in the hallway listening on the speaker, but is love. And anytime we've heard people talk about vulnerability, when we've heard people talk about compassion, I think when I talk about dignity, we are talking about love. And you spend more time with the people at work than you spend with your quote-unquote loved ones. So why don't you bring love to the office too, right? Sharon said, one of the things Sharon said when she opened this conference, right, her aha moment was, oh, it's all loving kindness. It is all loving kindness. Love is the source of it all and the antidote to our fear. And then what we say to our clients, when in doubt, whenever there's a question, whenever there's a concern, love is always the answer. Thank you. So imagine it is September 2016, and you are sitting at Wisdom 2.0 for business. What does life look like for you? What have you created? What are you proud of? So I'm going to take a moment and be silent while you either write or think about that. Seriously, it's 2016. You've had a year. Something has happened. In the wisdom space stage are actually the values that we've created my company inside of. So I have a small company, it's called Seven Stones Leadership Group, co-founded by myself and Jennifer Cohen. Our offices are co-located in Massachusetts. And this is our 7th year in business together. And we are guided by a set of values and insights. And I thought I would use those values to be the reflection of what I heard for the conference over the last few days. So first and foremost, what I've heard is a sense and need and desire for community. What we say is a community is where we rest and our greatest resource. And so many people. So I talked to Soren and Grania earlier this year, and I was on the phone with them, and we were talking about this conference, and I think I was really forceful, and I said something like, I don't want people to leave this conference and forget everything that happened on Monday morning. I want them to have an action plan. I want them to do something. And they both went, oh, that's a really good idea, Gina. Why don't you do that for them? And I was like, no, that's what I want. So I'm here really with a commitment that all of us, the speakers, all the attendees, the volunteers, leave here in action. We've heard many, many conversations for possibility yesterday and today. We've had some conversations for relationship. I'd like you to take on this conversation as a conversation for action. It can be mindful action, but action nonetheless. And for me, that means I have to start writing things down if I'm going to take action. For me, it also means that my calendar is somewhat nearby, because if I don't schedule things in my calendar, it's a fantasy that they're going to happen. So let's begin. I've attended as much of the conference as I could for the last 2 days, so I could really create this conversation with you anew. And all day yesterday and all day today, I kept thinking, this conference, things are sounding really familiar to me. What is it? What is it? What is it? And I realized is all of the values that I've been hearing from this. You were so happy you came last year to this conference because it changed your life. What changed? I would encourage you throughout my talk to take notes, preferably pad to paper so you don't have a screen in between me and you, but whatever works for you. Come and have a seat, those who are coming in. My first question for those who are just coming in is, it's September 2016, and you've created a new life. What have you created?